Welcome. I'm Harmony Slater, your host of the Finding Harmony podcast. Over the past 20 years, I've taught thousands of yoga teachers and students to explore the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, using mind-body practices to heal, awaken, and manifest their dreams from the inside out. This podcast is a sanctuary for those feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Are you ready to jump in and discover how these challenges aren't actually in the way, but are the way to finding harmony? Let's invite the magic back in. Hi, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. This time of year can always be a little bit challenging. It comes with its own unique flavor for many of us as we move into American Thanksgiving, the American election this year, and look towards the holidays, Christmas and New Year's, and all of the things and times where we are connecting with our loved ones and our family. And today, our guest, Patrick Belisle, is really somebody who's an expert in personal development. He is also an expert in fundraising. And we're going to talk to him about the work that he's been involved with in fundraising for some incredible organizations, big institutions, and also the importance of doing the emotional intelligence work, the inner work, when you're navigating complex family dynamics. He has been immersed in and studying both the Hoffman Process from the Hoffman Institute, as well as working for Edgar Cayce, and definitely an expert in the teachings of Edgar Cayce. And we are going to look at what he's learned and how he has integrated these different approaches in his own way to increase self-awareness, emotional resilience, and many spiritual insights that he's gleaned from all of his years and experience in the world, and how we can use some of these teachings and methodologies to help us in our relationships, to help us break free from generational patterns or even just our own reactive patterns, and how to really increase our emotional intelligence and awareness to communicate in a way that is effective, grounded in nonviolence, and will help us develop more harmonious connections within our families, with the people we love, but also probably the people that can trigger us the most easily, that we can also feel the most hurt by or wounded by as well. So this is a rich, rich conversation that is going to, I hope, make this holiday season a little easier to navigate for you and inspire you to keep doing your own inner work. Keep growing, keep looking into the practices that really truly bring healing and transformation from the inside out. So without further ado, let's jump into this really beautiful conversation, and you might get a few tips on how to enhance your fundraising endeavors as well. Hi, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. I'm your host, Harmony, and I am here today with two lovely gentlemen.
It's football season, Harm, and you've been so good. You've gotten a specialist coming in from the NFL to talk about the comings and goings of football for the season. That's great. And you are a specialist in the Minnesota Vikings, Dr. Belisle. Is that right?
Dr. Belisle.
I didn't expect to jump right in there, but yes, it's true. I grew up in Minnesota, and it's Vikings territory.
It's the Purple People Eaters, as I remember.
That's what they used to be called.
That's what they used to be called.
Yeah. Well done.
Do they still play the song?
The
I have no idea. I don't think they ever did.
Purple People
No?
Eaters?
Not to my knowledge. It's all the Scandinavian skål.
Oh, skål,
Skål!
which
Yeah,
means school in Swedish, which I've
in
been
We're
learning
gonna,
Swedish.
as
Swedish.
in, we're gonna school you.
We're
That's
gonna
the idea.
school you, yeah.
That's right.
But
And
hey,
my
we're here for peace and love today, man. We're
That's
not
that's
right. That's
right.
right.
It's
My
different kind of schooling.
my New Orleans Saints were schooled in the Minneapolis Miracle, and I haven't forgotten it. I think of it quite
Mm.
bitterly. And thinking, it's speaking of bitter childhoods, um, I wonder if you could tell us how you got to be so weird. Because you have been around the block and back, and it seems like you come from like a nice Lutheran family, maybe, oh, they're
Mm.
French Canadian, maybe a nice Catholic family,
Oh.
and you grew up doing your penances and all of that, and then you just went way off the range, didn't you?
It's very true. Thanks for picking up on that. And no, that's right. My French side was Catholic. My Irish mother's side was very Catholic. And just so you're not holding anything against me, I grew up on the St. Paul side of the river. So nothing to do with that Minneapolis Miracle against the Saint. Uh, St. Paul's the good side. But yeah, so I was raised Catholic and was really into my Catholicism. I was altar boy till I was 17, and captain
Wow.
of the I trained the altar boys. And then I went to a Catholic men's college in Minnesota called St. John's University and studied theology with Benedictine monks. And
Wow.
it was actually there that I first learned about things like reincarnation. And they had me reading Carl Jung and William James and
Well, that's the
Sigmund
beginning of
Freud.
the end.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I started getting into the Eastern ideas and
Yeah.
meditation and yeah, it's like I tell people I feel like I've grown beyond my Catholicism
Hmm.
Yeah.
because once a Catholic, you're always a Catholic. There are parts of me that are still there that came from my Catholicism. Even some of the weirdness there, Russell.
Yeah.
Uh, uh,
Hey, we were talking about this last night. You can do a little favor for me.
Oh, nuts.
I
uh-oh.
We
was
had a
talking.
heated
We
argument
were,
last
yeah,
night.
heated
I
argument.
I was explaining to Harmony that I can't
No,
believe I'm
you
doing
said
this.
that
I s-
Christian mysticism was dead.
yes, Christian mysticism is dead, whereas Indian mysticism, because you can't really say Hindu, but Indian mysticism is a living present tradition.
And I said that in Catholicism, they still believe, the Catholics, traditional Catholics, believe in the transubstantiation of the body and the blood of
I said in
Christ.
kind of like
Wow.
a
Look at you
fantasy
go.
land. In a fantasy land, it is, Harmony, and then we really started
And I said,
yelling.
if that's not mysticism, I don't know what
It's just
is.
pretend. It's not real
No, they
transubstantiation.
really believe
They
it.
may
That's the
believe
whole
it,
point of
but they're
ingesting
not
it.
experiencing it. It's like,
You don't know. You
well,
can't sit here
he
in
knows.
judgment.
He knows. That's what you said to me. He's like, you're Jewish. You don't know anything.
No,
And
I
so, but
didn't say that.
you did. You said that last night.
No, I said you can't judge other people's
You said you're
experiences.
Jewish. You don't know anything. If maybe you could, but I went to church frequently, and I
You
didn't.
you
You
guys
didn't
are
go to
awesome. I'm just
Catholic.
having fun watching the two of you. Uh, and yes, I'm happy to play marriage counselor uh, and find the middle ground here. I'll find the
Thank
middle
you.
ground.
Oh,
Thank
So
you.
so point number one, Jesus, as you know, was Jewish. So
yep.
let's just start there.
Mm.
Yeah,
Uh,
right? Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, that's a bridge.
and-
There's a bridge, Harm.
exactly, and uh, Harmony is absolutely right that Catholics do believe in transubstantiation. When the priest says those magic words, it transforms literally the essence of that body or of the bread and wine to body and blood of Christ. And
Literally.
so,
Literally,
well, literally the essence.
the
And this is
essence.
a whole theological topic we won't go into today. But
But it's
it's not that
mystical.
if you took that bread into the lab, it would show flesh, cells. It's the essence, and that's where
Yes.
the mysticism comes in. And after I had a mystical experience in India myself in 1994,
Oh.
was very attracted into a Christian mystical tradition that is Edgar Cayce, Cayce, Edgar Cayce,
So you're
the
kind of
father of,
leaning more to her side now.
well, I mean, because it's still alive for me and for many of us who are, I don't know if you guys have been looking at Richard Rohr or Thomas
I know.
Merton,
Yeah.
some of these
Yes.
Christian mystical traditions. But
Yeah.
Edgar Cayce convinced me that at the core of everything is Christ consciousness, and
Mhm.
that's not meant to be religious in his context, because you and I can each become a Christ.
Mhm.
So it's not just about Jesus; it's about each of us becoming that level of almost Buddhahood. It's like Buddha
Yeah.
nature.
Thich
Same
Nhat
idea.
Hanh wrote a whole book about this too.
About Christianity?
Yeah, no, yeah, called, I think, Buddha Nature, Christ Consciousness, or
Oh, right.
something
I
along
remember
those
that book.
lines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's if you're really looking for the oneness in all of it. I don't know if you can see this over my shoulder, but that's a book about the divine one. I think is the
Oh, I
universal
see it.
one.
Yeah.
Ah,
That's by
beautiful.
Walter Russell. But anyway, if you are looking for the message at the bottom of all religions, it is about oneness and
Yeah.
connection through love, essentially.
There's a great kind of Zen parable or koan about the nun who is asked to describe her enlightenment, and so she punches the man in the face, because you really shouldn't. It's not really something you should talk about. It kind of it's it's present to you, and that's all it needs to be. That said, I wonder if you could talk about what happened to you.
Yes. Yes, I'm happy to. Yeah, there's a song. Do you guys know Iris DeMint? She
Yeah,
wrote a song called "Let the Mystery Be,"
yeah, that's right.
and
That's a great song.
it's that same idea, right? That's like
Yeah.
just like stop trying to dissect this thing that we love, God, in other words,
Mhm.
because by dissecting it, you kill it, just like you would if you did it to your favorite pet.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
stop dissecting it. Like let it be, man. Just
Yeah.
love the mystery. Well, but yes, I'll be happy to tell you at least a little bit about it and stop me when it's too much. But my wife and I took 1 year to travel around the world in our
Mhm.
late 20s to figure out the meaning of life, because we knew it was not the check the boxes in the North American traditional way, because we had done that. We went to college, we got married, we had good jobs, we were making good money, and we still felt unfulfilled.
Mhm.
And so we spent our nest egg on this 1 year trip around the world, and we screwed off some, but we also meditated with Buddhist monks in Thailand,
Yeah.
and went to the Osho commune in India for a month, and they had 30 different kinds of meditation you could try, and yoga,
Yeah.
and
And those
and
little badges that say "In Silence," did they have those then?
they did, because there are a couple of the programs. They had a number of programs going on at any one time. There were probably 5,000 people at the ashram, so
Mhm.
lots of different programs, and a couple of them, yes, you have periods of silence. So if you saw somebody with that sticker on, you knew not to try to engage with them, because they were
Mhm.
in their integration process.
Yeah.
Well, one of the classes that I took was called Opening Up to Emotions, because famously we men especially
From
have
Minnesota.
been, especially from Minnesota, around all those Lutherans,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Stoic Scandinavians and Germans.
Keep it
Uh, we're
together.
we're
Mm.
taught to shut down our emotions,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and so I thought, well, enough of that. If I'm really here to crack something open, let's go for it. So the woman that was teaching the course actually did it through breath work. I don't know if you
Mhm.
guys have talked on your podcast about holotropic breath
Yeah,
work or other
I
kinds of
do
breath.
I
Yeah,
teach
yeah.
some holotropic breath work on my
You
yoga
do.
retreats.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Yeah,
Nicely done.
it's amazing,
Well,
right?
it's amazing. Well, I don't want to set people's expectations, because
Yeah.
I had a mystical experience as a result of one, but it is powerful.
Mhm.
So for me, what happened was there were probably 15 of us in this class, and we were laying in a circle, sort of head to foot on the floor.
Mhm.
And our teacher was leading us through the breath work, and got us into our altered state,
Mhm.
and had us do some emotional work, some forgiveness. And so she said, bring forward into your mind someone with whom you have unfinished emotional business. And maybe like most men, my father appeared, and I said, why can't you tell me that you love me?
Mm.
Mm.
And man, the tears started. And as you know, in that altered state, it's hard to distinguish between reality and non-reality. So this was very real to me. My dad was right there, and so I was expressing my desire to feel
Mhm.
loved by him. And then the teacher said, "Now become that person and respond to what you just said."
Yeah.
And wow, again, so realistic. And my dad said, "Well, I was raised on a dairy farm. You think I was taught emotional language?
Mm.
No, I knew my dad loved me because he got up before sunrise every day and went out to milk the cows.
Mhm.
Like that's how he told me he loved me." And again, it was just so real to me to have that level of understanding and compassion that now I was laughing uncontrollably in this
Yeah.
breathwork experience, and just so much forgiveness and compassion came over me. And after the laughter stopped, it was just beautiful peace.
Mm.
And in that peace, spontaneously, this bluish purple light just washed in and dissolved me. Like I disappeared, and this
Mm.
unconditional love is all that existed. I became that love, that bluish purple field, and I could see in the room. I could see all those people laying in the circle. I had a sense of what was going on with each
Mhm.
of them. It was this beautiful, beautiful place where I knew, not believed, but I knew that everything was exactly as it should be, and that only love really exists,
Mhm.
and that it didn't matter if I was king of the world or in prison somewhere, that I was always taken care of. Each one of us is always taken care of.
Yeah.
Mm.
It was so beautiful. And as it turns out, transformative, because our teacher brought us back,
Yeah.
and I came out of this thing knowing something had happened to me, but really at the time having no idea that it was going to be this life transforming experience. But I remember going through the ashram looking for my wife Jane, and realizing how crisp everything was, and how bright the colors were, and how the birds were so loud. And as it turned out, I had had a physical healing as a result of this
Mhm.
metaphysical experience. My eyesight, I had been 20/35, and afterwards I went back to the eye doctor, and I was 20/15.
Wow.
Oh my
I,
goodness.
I said, "I don't even know what that means." And she said, "It means you're the designated driver. Like you can see at 20 feet what most people see at 15 feet."
Yeah.
And here I am. I just turned 60 years old last month, and I still, where's the wood, knock wood, I still don't wear any glasses.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
and same with my hearing. My doctor said, "Haven't you ever been to a rock concert?" I said, "Yeah, I was lead singer in a rock band, and I went to Monsters of Rock in the '80s."
Mm.
And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because your eardrums don't show the wear and tear of a normal adult. Let's say you have the hearing of a 7-year old."
Mm.
And I
Wow.
said, "It's a result of this mystical experience. I'm convinced."
Mm.
Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah. So there
Wow.
you go. More than you wanted to
Love
know.
that.
No, it's exactly
No, it's
exactly what I wanted to hear because
beautiful.
it's something like that transforms every decision subsequently.
It's so
And
true.
right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah, because I now know that it's all about love. Uh,
mhm.
Mhm.
it This is a big Edgar Cayceism. In fact, he I don't know if you know about the Edgar Cayce readings, but in the readings he said the most important thing any of us can do in a lifetime is to consciously set our spiritual ideal.
Mhm.
And that ideal sits out there like a north star, guiding our every decision, just like you're saying.
Mhm.
So if my ideal really is love, no matter who I meet, I'm
Mhm.
either attracted or repelled by whether that's going to advance me toward love or lead me away.
Mhm.
Same thing with work. I went to work for the Edgar Cayce organization, the Association for Research and Enlightenment, in part because over the door it said their mission is to manifest the love of God and humankind.
Mhm.
I'm like,
Incredible.
manifest love? How can I not work for this place?
Yeah.
And now
I
I work
love
for the Hoffman Institute, and it's all about authenticity and love. So,
yeah.
it really
I
does
love
change.
that you're saying this because my son, he goes to Catholic school,
Ah,
and we're having a conversation about, like God and religion, I guess, and like morality and making right choices or wrong choices. And also, I was raised Christian, but spent a lot of time in India, studied religion as well in university. I have a degree in religions. Studied Buddhism quite intensely.
Hmm.
Lived in Thailand, lived in India. So very eclectic experience, um, and also have had some mystical experiences as well. And this is what I was
Yeah.
explaining to him. I said, to me, God is love. And the Bible even says God is love.
Mhm.
And so it's very simple. What moves me closer to love is taking me on the right path, and what moves me away from love is taking me on the wrong path.
Mhm.
And that's, I mean, love for self, love for others, right? And so I love that you're saying this, love, love, love,
Yeah.
because
Well, we're in good company with Jesus and others along the way too.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's so simple. It doesn't have to be,
Well,
complicated
exactly. In fact,
at
I
the end
love
of
that
the
this is
day.
not at all. In fact, what I love about love is it is accepting
Yeah.
in it at its base. That's to me that there's a guy that wrote a book called Real Love, and that's essentially what it says is if we tell the truth about ourselves to someone and feel that we're accepted by them and not
Yeah.
judged, we feel loved. And so if we can just accept what is in our world and the people in our world, if we just accept them as they are, they're going to feel loved by us.
Mhm.
And that's the same, yeah, same in our life. Just radical acceptance.
Yeah, and it's profoundly healing as your experience kind of is a testimony to. But
Mm.
when you're in that kind of presence of non-judging, and when you can bring that even into your own self, right? That
Oh
sometimes I
yeah,
think it's even harder to do with yourself is that radical acceptance, radical non-judgment, radical self-love and compassion and forgiveness.
yeah. Well,
It is healing. It's profound experience.
it is. Well, there are a couple Edgar Cayce readings that I'd love to share just along those lines.
Yes,
Oh,
please.
please.
Well, just that really make this point uh, about non-judgment. There were two different women who came to him to get a past life reading because Edgar Cayce opens the door to reincarnation, even though
Mhm.
it's Christian mysticism.
Mhm.
Um, uh-huh, ties it all together.
Yeah.
And these two different women were both told that they had been a prostitute in a past life, but the end of the story is very different for both of them. One of them became a prostitute because her husband had been out to see a prostitute and brought home a venereal disease, as we used to call it, an
Oh, yeah.
STI
Mhm,
or
mhm.
STD,
Yeah.
and infected her.
Mhm.
And so she
Yeah.
was pissed. And so she left her husband and slept around, became a prostitute,
Mhm.
uh, specifically to get back at men
Mm.
Mm,
and show these other guys who are cheating on their wives this is what you get, you know.
right.
Uh, and Edgar Cayce, at the end of a reading, would say uh, either you gained or you lost in that lifetime, and that woman lost.
Mm,
Mhm.
The other woman, who also was a prostitute, had become a prostitute because she lived in a harbor town and felt compassion for these lonely men who came through her town just looking for
yeah.
gentleness and warmth and love, and she became a prostitute as an act of service to them,
Mm.
and she actually gained in that
Oh,
lifetime as a prostitute because of
Mhm.
that intention that was underneath her, the same actions
yeah.
but very different intentions. So
Mm. The
I love that
generosity.
idea that, yeah, the
Yeah.
generosity, that level of acceptance of uh, yeah,
Mm.
prostitutes aren't
Yeah.
all bad.
Yeah.
It's your intention that matters in the big scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
That's
think that is so, important is the intention that we're bringing to something, right? And
Mhm.
Don't you guys? Because you're yoga people. Do you set an intention at the beginning of your practice each time? Isn't that
Yeah.
part of yoga?
It
Some
is,
yoga.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
you're seeking, guidance from your teacher to, to
Or your
reshape
higher self.
or which is also the teacher,
Yeah.
to reshape the habitual patterns that lead you towards darkness, and reshape those patterns to lead you towards, light. And
Mm,
that's the Ashtanga Yoga Mantram in a nutshell.
that's so
Uh,
beautiful.
yeah, I was
And oh, go ahead. Sorry.
pleased.
Well, I was just going to say that, you guys, every time you say something, it reminds me of something. And you mentioned the word patterns, and that's
Mm,
what the
Mhm.
Hoffman Institute is all about. And that's my
Yeah.
current workplace. We're busy helping the students find the patterns that we all develop in childhood to try to get love from our parents. And then we start participating in those patterns unconsciously, even into
mhm,
adulthood, even when those patterns no longer serve us. And so Hoffman helps you become aware of those patterns and then gives you tools to either participate in them or shed them,
mhm.
Mhm.
and uh, and participate in life more authentically and from a more loving place.
It's amazing because it reminds me so much somehow, especially the story about the prostitutes, is that and reshaping your intention, and I guess turning lemons into lemonade, really. And I was thinking about something that happened to my grandmother, who Dorothy Lund, a Swedish Lutheran lady, and she had had a real rough childhood. Had been, physically abused. Not molested so much as just beaten habitually.
My
And
gosh.
her sister the same. And her sister had married a man. My aunt Pat, my great aunt Pat, had married a man who was a serial abuser as well, because that just fit the pattern. Like, oh, this is what I'm used to. And she ended up being accidentally murdered by him.
Mm,
And my grandmother famously forsake God. Like, God has um, punished me for, or punished our family, or forsaken my sister. And it was just kind of, it's wild to see the pattern of those choices. Instead of, say, turning closer to God, or
yeah.
closer to the source, or closer to forgiveness and healing, to
Yeah.
turn away from it, and then lead her children on a pattern of abuse and victimization and neglect. And they all four of my aunts and uncles and my mom all really struggled with that trauma, that inherited trauma. And I kind of I stem my own search for yoga from that whole branch.
Yeah.
It all, I can see how it all kind of leads to me saying, I think I need some help. You
Good for
know,
you. Trying to break that cycle, that
yeah,
pattern. Hmm.
yeah, because I can see a violent pattern in myself,
Yeah.
and a something that kind of also always has to kind of be held in check.
Yeah. Well, it's
And
interesting. Thank you for sharing that. That's really intense.
mm,
And I will say that I'm grateful not to have experienced trauma like that in my own life,
mm,
but that I've talked to a number of people who've gone through the Hoffman process who have, and who swear by it. I'll just say that the Bob Hoffman, who created the Hoffman process, 40 or 50 years ago,
mm,
um, talks about what he called negative love syndrome,
mhm,
which essentially explains why we participate in the patterns that our parents had, even if they were bad patterns.
mhm,
You know,
Mm.
I was abused. I'll never abuse. Well, then I end up abusing. Why is that? And it's a very deep unconscious pattern that stems from wanting to participate in the same activities or same actions that our parents did to try to feel close to them.
mhm.
Mm.
It's a little twisted, let's just
To
say.
try and feel close to them.
Yeah.
But yep, that's right. So,
Mm,
my dad would fly off the handle, and I'm not going to fly off the handle. But boy, it's like his pattern is so deeply etched in me, even if consciously I know I don't want to participate, it just
Mhm.
takes over unconsciously. And same thing with the abuse. So what Hoffman's done for a number of these folks that I've met along the way, because now I raise money for them. I travel around the country and meet with graduates and hear their experiences. And one woman I met in California said, I said, what would the Hoffman process do for you? She said, well, first of all, it saved my marriage. She looked at her husband and he nodded and said, it's true. We were on our way out until we did the process.
Mhm.
You can't do it with your partner, by the way. You have to do it separate. But once they had both done it, they had the same
Yeah.
language and understanding. So it saved our marriage. And she said, I got rid of my lifelong depression.
Mm.
And I said, you mean it helped alleviate your depression, right? I mean, depression never really goes away. She said, well, don't tell me that because it went away and it's never come back.
Mhm.
And I said, what? That's unbelievable. And she said, yeah. And she talked about these childhood traumas that she'd
Mhm.
never been able to overcome through talk therapy and some of the rest of it. And said, all those years of talk therapy went out the window when I did my 1 week Hoffman process. And it just helped me embody the understandings that I'd already had mentally. It allowed me to live that.
Mhm.
Mm.
Really, it's amazing and powerful.
Yeah.
I'd like to. I'd like to kind of dig a bit more into the Hoffman Institute. I want to maybe if we could set it up by talking about. Um, uh, I'm going to try and remember. You worked with Edgar Cayce, and actually you had a tenure as director of the Edgar Cayce Institute at something like 15 years, and that was you started that work after you came back from India,
Mm-hmm.
and then you transitioned from that into the Hoffman Institute. I just wonder if you could tell us a bit more about that.
Sure. Well, again, it all comes back to that idea of following my ideal.
Yeah.
And there's a little affirmation that we learned at Edgar Cayce camp, uh, which was let's see if I can pull it back. Uh, Great Spirit, beloved God, let your will flow through me. Let me ever be a channel of blessings today, now, to those that I contact in every way. And as the call comes, here I am. Let me serve with joy. And so I would say that every day for many, many years as my guiding light.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a channel of blessings. It's not about my will; it's about a higher will.
Mhm.
So I'm constantly watching for the call,
Yeah.
like this, like Harmony. You called me in.
Yeah.
You don't know me, I don't know you, but I hear the call, and I could see your bright shininess, all about wanting to spread more love in the world. I say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how Edgar Cayce happened, and that's how Hoffman happened.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, these things just came into my life through people I love and trust, and it just really resonated. And I committed. I had really good success at the ARE where I was raising money.
Mm-hmm.
I'd raised something like $65 million for them over
Wow.
the years. Built buildings and built an endowment, and yeah, really helped get them firmly financially established.
Yeah.
And same thing. Then I did a fundraising workshop for leaders of what were called spiritual seeker organizations,
Mhm.
including Hoffman.
Mhm.
Uh, Raz Ingrassi, who's one of the founders of the Hoffman Institute Foundation, was there and came up to me after I gave my explanation of money as financial energy,
Mhm.
and my own role as being a conduit for that energy. Again, it's not
Yeah.
about me or my will. It's just trying to be a matchmaker and flow the energy where it needs to
Yeah.
go.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Man, the way you talk about money and fundraising, I think you'd be a good fundraiser for Hoffman one day." And I said, "Well, great. That's my boss at the ARE right over there. So talk to him about." But anyway, a few years later, when it was time for me to leave the ARE, I called Raz and said, "Hey, I want to do my Hoffman process to leave behind the last chapter and sort of do my own spiritual work again, and open up to what's next? And he said, great. And if it goes well, I'll talk to you about maybe raising money for us. So
Amazing.
Can you describe the Hoffman process? I'm going to say process. I'm so sorry.
nicely done, Kenny. By the way, just this last year, Hoffman US and Hoffman Canada merged into one.
Oh,
Oh, cool.
We actually do have a retreat site up in Calgary.
Really?
in Banff, maybe somewhere near there?
No,
Or
it's
in the
up in the
city?
mountains. Nope, not in the city. Out in the it's
In
a beautiful little
Kananaskis,
spot.
maybe.
I'll find out.
Okay, find out. Sign me up.
I've not been. It was new.
When people say Calgary and mountains, we were thinking, a little bit west of the town, because we're still in Calgary. We're still in
The foothills.
cow pasture, and you
Okay,
just
maybe I better
go.
just said Alberta mountains somewhere. But
Well, no, it's just an
Yeah,
hour
somewhere
over there.
beautiful
You
in the
can see them
Rockies.
from
okay,
where we are. So they're
gotcha.
probably over there in Kananaskis. Yeah,
Probably. Well,
yeah.
I'll find out and let you know. But the main
Please, yeah.
campus is in Northern California, in Marin County,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
in
Where you?
Petaluma. But we just
I know
bought
Petaluma.
a new campus in San Rafael, and
Oh,
we're going to be moving there in 2025.
Wow.
But
nice.
but what it is before you do the process, there's about 10 or 12 hours of homework to do the things I was telling you about before with the patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they ask you a lot of questions. When you were a child and
Mhm.
you were mad, what did you do? How did you cope? Um,
Mm-hmm.
when you felt really good, what did you do, etc. So all
Mhm.
this homework, and then they assign you a teacher who says, "Hey, from your 12 hours of homework, I can see you have these." In my case, it was like 87 patterns. Like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, and so I started this work of sort of condensing some of those patterns into bigger patterns, sort of
Mm-hmm.
the Uber patterns. Like,
Mhm.
no surprise in my case, one of my Uber patterns is nice guy pattern,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
which
That's
which
because you're from Minnesota.
Minnesota
exactly
night,
Minnesota
that's
night.
right.
which
There's
is
that. So
can be very unpleasant, actually.
yeah. Not in my case, but
Okay.
I was voted the friendliest in my high school class. So I
Mm.
came by it naturally, and I genuinely love people. I always have. So, but it also can lead to people pleasing and other things that are not
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah.
And so this teacher helped me point all those main patterns out. So
Mhm.
you get to the actual process, and it's a week long, literally 7 days, and you have no contact with the outside world. You turn
Mhm.
in your phone, computer. Obviously, then if it's an emergency, people can
Yeah.
get a hold of you, but you really shut off everything.
Yeah.
You stop uh, any habits, I'll say, that you bring in from the outside, whether that's meditation or exercise or sex or
Mhm.
drugs or whatever it is, all of
Yoga.
that. Yeah, not for that week. 1 week, you
Mhm.
Yeah.
do the process,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and and uh, and it's really amazing. So there's everything from visualizations to physical exercise to expression work,
Mhm.
um, to let you really embody this. It's not just intellectual. That's
Mhm.
what's very different about
Mhm.
the process. Super intense. Is again, we're back to laughing and crying, and
Yeah.
you touch on all those emotions. Essentially, what it does is it follows what they're calling the sacred quadrinity. Are you guys familiar
Mm.
with that idea?
Mm-mm.
No.
So I asked because it's a yogic uh, invention. I guess probably 5,000 years old or
Mhm.
more.
Maybe we know it
This
under a different name.
Mhm.
I bet you do. It essentially says that each of us is made up of four parts: body, obvious,
Mhm.
the emotional self,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
intellectual self, and
Yeah.
the spiritual self.
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And so what we do with the quadrinity, in fact, this is on Instagram if you ever want to check it out. You could do a quadrinity check.
Okay.
I think they put it up once or twice a day, and it's just a 5-minute meditation where you check in with your body and say,
Mhm.
okay, body, what do you need from me today? And you give it some gratitude for getting you around today and getting
Yeah.
you to do the things you need to do. Thank you, body. Intellect, let's come to you. what's on your mind today? What do you need from me?
Hmm.
Thank you, intellect, for getting me through my day. And then you do the same thing with that emotional self, which I came to find out had been really seriously neglected by me,
Mhm.
despite having done that opening up to emotions work in India.
Yeah.
Like most of us, I found that I was waking up early and thinking, well, oh, my body is so tired, I need more sleep. My intellect says, shut up, get out there. You got money to raise, get on the road, do what you
Mhm.
got to do. Or, oh, I'm going to miss my wife. I'm sad. And you know, shut up, emotional self. Like, get out there and do your
Yeah.
thing. Uh,
Yeah.
so my quadrinity was off. The fourth part of the quadrinity, of course, is the spiritual self. And the way Hoffman helps you see that is the spiritual self is that timeless, uh, eternal part of
Mhm.
ourselves that if you're aware of it and if you empower it,
Mm.
can help you keep the rest of the quadrinity in balance,
Mhm.
And so it's really, again, back to that affirmation I said earlier, putting your own intellect aside,
Yeah.
for a bit and just coming up to that higher self and really getting a sense of coming back to that place of love,
Mhm.
and going out and kicking ass to raise money for the sake of love does not equate to love.
Yeah.
My vibration was not very loving in making stuff happen.
Yeah, into
Mhm.
yourself.
Exactly, and to myself. Yeah. So that's the quadrinity, and that's essentially that in a nutshell. That's the Hoffman process. You at the end of it, you come out feeling more authentic. I
Yeah.
chose, I was aware of things in my patterns that I just never was before. Uh, I I came to really know that I am loved and lovable,
Mhm.
and without having to achieve anything or do anything, just my being is enough.
Yeah, this is
We
so
certainly do recognize it because
yeah.
we would call it the quadrinity, the koshas. And so like the Maya kosha is the physical sheath that we are, enmeshed in, or
Hmm.
the emotional sheath, the intellectual sheath, the sheath of bliss.
Yeah.
Sounds like maybe the fifth one that we didn't hear.
Mm,
Yeah.
I
But
like that
the
one.
yeah. The as you're speaking, it reminds me I've been involved in a coach training program that the founder. She's a spiritual psychologist and therapist, and so she's created a coaching method that really works exactly with what you're
Mm.
talking about. So that
Oh
you're
wow.
doing somatic coaching, like where you're tuning into the sensation in the body and
Hmm.
working at it from that level, as well as like mindset for the mind and the mental, as well as emotional mastery and, you know, letting the emotions speak and tuning into those memories and those patterns and the little children and the parts integration and all of that work. And then also behavioral. So repatterning some of the
Yeah,
behaviors and looking at
that's a
how,
huge one.
yeah, yeah, how it's
You know.
affecting us. And then also unconscious.
Mhm.
So that's, I mean, the whole process together works really well of like, because so much of our unconscious is stored in our body.
Hmm.
And so when you start to tune into the body and slow down and pay attention, you start to feel into maybe sensations which bring up
Yeah.
unconscious memories, emotions, thoughts,
Mm.
feelings, images. And then if you're slow and still, you
I'm
can,
slow.
yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Not just like going to the next thing.
If you're
I see.
patient,
Patient, yes,
patient,
I
you
see.
mean.
patient. You
The
can let them, let them come up and out, and then you can see them. And I love what you're saying about this unconscious and having it, having us kind of replay
Yeah.
sometimes are unconscious patterns from family or childhood. And I think it ties back in with your reading of Carl Jung, right? Where he says, if you don't bring what is unconscious into your conscious awareness, it will continue to direct your path and you will call it destiny.
Mm.
And I think it's
Wow.
the ultimate freedom is figuring out and seeing that
That's so
stuff that you
true.
believe to be true, but isn't actually true.
And may we all do that in time for Thanksgiving and post-election.
That's right.
Right?
It's a great
All the
segue,
button pushing.
because that's
Yeah.
a fantastic. Let's talk about that, because I spent most of my Thanksgivings and childhood and family reunions curled into a tiny ball,
Oh,
hiding
I
from
just want to
people
hug that little guy.
shouting and yelling at each other. And I'm
Oh,
just like this. So this was my unconscious pattern. And so the first thing that they had us do in the yoga was to say, well, we're going to go into the opposite. Like, that's scary, right? Like, yeah, I don't like that at all.
super
And
vulnerable.
super vulnerable. And we're going to breathe now in this open feeling. And you're
Yeah.
just going to sit with it. Like if you're doing spider immersion therapy and they douse you with spiders. So we've got Thanksgiving coming up, and we have to spend some time with our family. How can we prepare ourselves for that adequately?
Well, first of all, meditation. We come back to meditation. Always meditation.
And prayer.
That comes next. But
Mm.
no, meditation, for me, meditation is so great at just giving me that space, just that patience, as you mentioned before, that
Mm.
momentary
Yeah.
pause before I engage. Because I just mentioned Thanksgiving is full of button pushing for all of us,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
elections too, for that matter.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, and so
They're gonna be
so
very
some
combined this year.
right, exactly. So somebody, reaches out to push your button on whatever front. For me, if I'm meditating, it allows me to sort of take that mental breath
Mm.
and maybe become playful with it instead of taking the bait and having those emotions triggered. Like take it a different way. Uh, One of the things that we do in Hoffman is we do something called recycling or pre-cycling, where
Mm.
we think about what the vicious cycle is that's caused by somebody pushing a certain button,
Yeah.
and then we think of other ways that we could potentially react to what we know is coming, right?
Mhm.
It's like, oh God, when Uncle Bob has his third martini or whatever, he's going to be on the, you know, it's like
Yeah.
you know what's coming.
Yeah.
So if you can visualize a different way of acting or reacting, and just be ready with that, I think that's super helpful.
Yeah.
And just and I think at the beginning of this, you said something about me being weird, which I fully accept, and part of that weirdness comes from a certain playful impishness that I feel like I picked up from Osho,
Mhm.
Mhm.
which is a way of saying, I'm not buying into your button pushing control, Uncle
Yeah.
Bob. I'm gonna make a joke out of what you say, and
Mhm.
we're gonna play together around that,
Yeah.
instead of taking it so seriously and letting the
Mhm.
ego, want to be right.
And that's
Yeah.
something you've often said to me, Harm, about this experience I'm struggling with, is Uncle Bob on his third martini is as just let's leave that as a euphemism. Um, is that the desire is a comes from wanting to engage and to be loved. What's the word when you love someone unconditionally? And
Yes.
I want to be loved, and I want to see if you still love me after I say this to you, because then I'll really know if I'm loved or not.
Uncle Bob, you mean?
Uncle Bob,
Yeah.
yes.
Not to
And
me.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a phenomenal way of thinking about it. Still unpleasant for me with Uncle Bob, but
Yeah.
it gives me a place of empathy, I think, that's the
That's
right
I
right.
always
word.
feel like there's a woundedness or there's protection that's coming up around these really strong kind of personalities that have really
Yeah.
strong opinions and um
Yeah,
looking for conflict in a way, right? Because
that's right.
there's a sense of needing to defend, right?
You used the word need.
Yeah.
So and this is a huge part of my Hoffman process, is I realized how needy I was for
Mm,
external and am, but for external validation.
Mhm.
Uh, when you mentioned that you want that validation from Uncle Bob that you are loved and lovable or whatever. If we need that from outside of us, we're going to be disappointed every time.
Mhm.
And of course, that's what Buddha tells us, right? It's those expectations
Yeah.
that lead to our suffering. If we can just accept what comes, whatever it is, and only project out to the world love from ourselves,
yeah.
if Uncle Bob feels loved, I guarantee you he's going to be more loving toward us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, so if I can get my mind around loving Uncle Bob, sober or not, or whatever whatever state he's in, we're all it changes the whole vibration in the whole room.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, what we bring to it can change the whole room.
mhm.
So I always try to be ready with the witty comeback, but not a shameful witty comeback, because
Yeah.
that's where I want to go. That's where that's where I used to go. It'd be
Mhm.
like, oh, that's not what she said or whatever, like
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
okay, no. And the other thing I'll mention for my own when it comes close to having the button pushed, and I need to leave the situation. Like I'll
Mm.
walk out, uh, instead of playing the game and getting those buttons pushed. It's totally valid just to go outside, take a walk. Uh,
Mhm.
for me, vibration music is a
Mm.
huge mood changer.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
so be ready with some of your favorite music. You
Yeah.
know,
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's a huge deal for me. It changes everything.
Or even Uncle Bob's favorite tunes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
let's put Uncle Bob's
Ah.
favorite tunes on.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Be
let's
ready with
turn this
those
super
Beatles.
violent
Yeah,
football
Beatles,
off
Frank
for
Sinatra, I don't know.
because that's what we do, right? As Americans, we gather around a super violent conflict where people are being as violent as possible without being
Yeah,
arrested, and then we have family time. And it's not around a fire, not around, Bing Crosby, but
yeah,
around, fighting. Let's
Yeah.
gather around the fight and then be nice to each other. You're asking a lot.
yeah. It's very true. Well, that reminded me of, we go back to the intention that we
Mm.
talked about before. Not
Mhm.
about football per se, but I'm thinking about the politics that also
Yeah.
inevitably comes up at that Thanksgiving table or during the game. Um, and because I've for so many years traveled around the country and the world, talking to different people, especially that are spiritually related, and you wouldn't believe uh, both sides of the political spectrum that are represented, even in spiritual organizations.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, if your son goes to a Catholic school, maybe you would,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because you get both extremes of those political situations. And so I was witness to Bush bashing and Obama bashing and Trump bashing and Biden bashing,
Biden bashing.
and and inevitably, what I try to do is bring it back to intention, and I try to say, hey, whatever you think of George Bush or Barack Obama, they could have been fat and happy, an African American attorney in Chicago living high off the hog. Nobody ever knew about him, making good money. Or George Bush, son of a millionaire oil guy, owned a baseball team. He could have just done that and
Yeah.
been totally fine. But instead, both of those guys chose to be of service to their country.
Mhm.
Mm.
Like, let's start there,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Let's just at least give them that, regardless of what you think about their politics.
Mm.
Biden, Trump, maybe you can get that same place. I don't know. But the point is, find something that Uncle Bob can respect, or
Yeah.
you can see eye to eye, just at least for a minute with those folks. Even if you have a different football team,
Mhm.
just find something.
Yeah. Yeah, you're at least, you enjoy the same game.
Yeah. I do. I try to redirect it back to the sport. It's like, Oh, yeah, Dallas is really doing well this year. I understand what you're saying about Trump, but like really think about Jerry Jones for a moment.
One thing that that I think is really interesting also is what you were saying about fundraising and money as sort of another energy
Mm,
vibration. And I think a lot of spiritually minded people find it very difficult not only to raise funds,
mhm.
which is itself quite challenging often, can be, but maybe not for you. I'm gonna get your tips offline because I sit on the board for a non-for-profit organization, so we're always raising money for Yoga Gives Back. But even just like getting paid for their services, yoga teachers, healers, you know, coaches, I don't know, anyone in the service industry who's feels like of service or maybe more spiritual in their orientation often struggle with the whole money aspect. So how did you bring these two worlds together in such a harmonious way?
Nicely done, Harmony.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there's two books were really instrumental in helping me early on. I started raising money in 1989 back
Okay.
in St. Paul, Minnesota for United Way. And I read a book by a guy named Jacob Needleman called Money and the Meaning of Life.
Mhm.
Mm.
And he gave a history of money, basically, and then uh, said money essentially represents our life energy, right? So I give my 40 hours or whatever it is of life energy, mental, physical energy to this organization.
Mhm.
And as in return, they give me these numbers that end up in my bank account. And that those numbers essentially represent the life energy that I just gave to the organizations. There's no tangible thing that just happened. It's
Mhm.
I gave them energy and they gave me financial energy,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? I gave them my life energy, they gave me financial energy. That financial energy is not good or bad. It's totally neutral.
Mhm.
I can use it to create whatever I want. I can go out to eat with it. I could build a school with it. I could
Mhm.
do something in politics or football or whatever else.
Yeah.
It's neutral. I could donate it uh, to create whatever I want. So uh, Jacob Needleman's book was instrumental in that, and so was Lynn Twist.
Yeah. I
She
love
wrote The
her.
Soul of Money. Yeah, she's great. And so same idea. It's just a form of energy, and yeah. So the other thing I do in fundraising, hopefully Harmony, this will help you with your people.
Yeah.
I always start my fundraising workshops with this little skit.
Okay.
How many of you love to raise money for your charity just like I do? How many of you love to ask people for money? Nobody? Nobody? Now,
Nobody loves it. Right.
now, how many of you love giving to charity? How many of you give to charity during the course of the year? Anybody? Oh, every hand goes up.
Yeah.
Now, where's the disconnect there? Wait, why do you love giving to charity? Oh, I love fulfilling their mission. It makes me feel good to help the kids or whatever I'm
Mhm.
doing. Again, where's the disconnect between that good feeling that you get giving to charity
Mhm.
and the fear around asking people for money? You're giving them an opportunity to feel good. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
so that's what I look for is that connection between people that have financial energy but don't have the mental or physical energy or time to give that to the
Mhm.
organization, but they're in line with our mission. It's a perfect match.
Yeah.
Boy, when I was at the ARE, I met this guy who wanted to give us $10,000 for our prison outreach program.
Mm.
And I said, Richard, that's fantastic. Why are you so passionate about this program? Silence. Because I was in federal prison for a year for tax evasion. And
Mm.
I met guys in there that had given up hope. And he
Mhm.
said, my belief is if I can I want to get as many Edgar Cayce books into the hands of prisoners as I can before I die, because that's
Mhm.
what's going to give them hope. And I said, Richard, Your goal is my goal.
Yeah.
Could you theoretically give $10,000 a year to create an endowed fund that could perpetuate your desire and get books into the hands of prisoners for generations to
Yeah.
come? He said, absolutely. Let's talk about that.
Huh.
Amazing.
It's
Oh, wow.
just making that connection of passion and
Mhm.
yeah,
Huh.
Beautiful.
and yeah, it is
Yeah.
beautiful. So that's
Wow.
that's how it can work.
I love it. I love it.
Everybody should win. It should be a
Yeah.
win-win energetically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the upsale of the century. That's amazing. Mm,
I mean, I think
mm.
also it's so what you're saying so valuable too, like that, you know, good people who have good hearts should be really feel good about making money because they're going to do good things in the world with their money. And more good people need to have more money so that we can create more good in the world.
Amen, sister.
Yeah.
There's another kind of reframe that I want to throw out there for the election season. I in Alberta, you'd be surprised how many people tell you they don't like to pay their taxes. I'm not
Shocking.
sure. And shocking. In rest of Canada, people are pretty okay with it. And England, they're really kind of patriotic, which is the word that I've been using with our son to help him, because it's like, look, when people are saying that about taxes, I want you to change the word tax to patriotism. I pay my taxes because I'm a patriot and I really want to do well for my country and for my neighborhood and my community and my city. That's why I pay taxes. And it's not like anyone's taking anything from me. I'm contributing by paying tax. That's my patriot. It's my act of patriotism. Just to prepare him, because I'm sure he's going to be around a lot of people saying exactly the opposite. So,
And to prepare our listeners for
and
Thanksgiving.
to prepare our listeners for
Ah,
Thanksgiving, have thanks for your tax. That's your act of
well,
patriotism.
that's right. I mean, it all comes back to gratitude and appreciation for
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
those taxes bring us. And because your son goes to Catholic school, I'll also mention that Jesus always said, "Render unto Caesar what is
Right.
Caesar's." Like, don't hold it back. If they need taxes, just give the taxes and move on.
Mhm,
You're still going to have financial energy. Like,
mhm,
Yeah.
don't you can suffer in paying taxes, or you can feel the joy. Go out to the park and appreciate what those taxes have done in this park and the beauty
mhm,
around it, and you know,
Yeah.
put your mail in the mailbox and feel good that you can still get this thing across the country for 60 cents or whatever.
Exactly.
Taxes are hard at work for the
Yeah.
anyway. You
I'm
get the
certainly
idea.
grateful for my free medical care, and so thank you, Justin Trudeau.
In Canada.
Oh yeah, right. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I
So
think gratitude is the key though, right? It's the key that
it is.
unlocks, like, the
It,
flow of energy.
it keeps. I'm telling you that the first of all, on a fundraising point of view, the number one indicator of whether somebody donates a second time or not is
Mhm.
how appreciated they feel
Wow.
by the organization. So keep that in mind too.
Wow.
But yes, we want to feel gratitude for everything that comes our way, and as soon as we do, more comes our way.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
I remember sitting on an airplane with my wife, and you guys ever fly on? I guess it must have been Virgin Air.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
yeah.
we both did that.
They're amazing, and they
Yeah.
had this pudding called goo, and it was so delicious. And my wife and I were like, "Man, this." Told the flight attendant, "This is the best stuff ever." And she's like, "Really? Okay, thanks." And like 10 minutes later, she came by with like 5 packets of goo and gave it. You know,
Oh,
Ah!
just
that's so
because
nice.
we expressed
Yeah,
appreciation and
Mhm,
gratitude for it, it's like more came into our life.
yeah,
mhm.
So that's a really good thing to keep in mind at this Thanksgiving for sure. The
yeah,
gratitude really does open those doors for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Hey, one thing, do we still have time?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
One thing we didn't get into is I also work with a group at the University of Virginia. I live in Charlottesville, Virginia,
Yeah.
which Jane and I picked out of the whole world to move to after our trip around the world for that one year. We wandered America for 3 years. We'd run out of money every couple months and stop and get jobs somewhere cool and save up a couple $1,000 and wander on some more. And at the end of that, Charlottesville was the place that we picked because it's got everything,
That's where
including.
we're gonna move to
Is
next.
Good. Come
okay.
join us. Keep in touch.
Yes.
I know your friend Bree lives here.
I know. I already
Yeah.
told Brie. I said, I'm coming.
Good.
Give me 10 years.
Well, one of the things that brought me
5.
here in the end was this group that I still work with at the University of Virginia called the Division of Perceptual Studies, DOPS for short. But it was started by this psychiatrist 50 years ago, Ian Stevenson. He was researching the nature of consciousness, and that included things like near-death experiences, which were brand new back then. There had been no research in it. Now this group is the world expert in near-death experience research. How can consciousness survive death? And then there were these little kids. We're talking 3-year-old children that seem to have memories of a past life.
Right.
And this group of researchers finds out if the facts are real that these kids are saying at 3 years old, that this person existed in that town, that these kind of circumstances. And they have 2,300 cases of children who remember a past life. And they research psychic phenomena and all sorts of amazing, cool stuff in the lab that we have. So I just wanted to put that out there too, because if your listeners haven't listened to things like near-death experience research or stories, talk about gratitude and transformative experiences, those folks tend to come back really altruistic and knowing it's all about love. My colleague, Dr. Bruce Grayson, just wrote a book about his 40 years of doing this NDE research. It's called After. So if you want to pick up a good read for Thanksgiving or the holidays, check out After. Be inspired.
I'm really into the near-death experiences these days. I love them.
Did I read
Check
right
it out.
that your wife works in hospice work?
She's done some hospice work, not a full-time hospice worker.
Maybe I misread that somewhere.
Oh, not to worry. She works at a senior center, so it puts her in touch with a lot of those folks for sure. But there's also a group at University of Virginia that you guys would probably know about, which was started by Sonia Jones. Called the Contemplative Sciences Center.
I used to work for Sonia for about 10 years.
No way.
Yeah. So my friend John Campbell helped build the Contemplative Sciences Center, and he's there in Charlottesville. Oh no,
he's in New York now.
Yeah, but he left his apprentice John Boltman behind to work to do yoga there.
Well, dude, see more reasons to come to Charlottesville.
I think so.
They just built a new building, the Contemplative Commons, and some
Really?
fortress, and so we're doing some work with them collaboratively. They just now started their own research group, and between them and us, we're hoping to get some funding for a study in psychedelics, specifically how psilocybin can help with complex grief, long-term grief. Anyway, so we're this group that I'm working with, that's been around a long time doing the consciousness research, is now really working hard with the Contemplative Sciences group to get something off the ground in meditation and yoga.
Yeah,
they're more doing the practical stuff.
Very complimentary, though.
I was just saying to Harmony the other day, we had microdosed in a lake in British Columbia. Someone had handed us some at the folk festival, and we thought, we'll take it. And so we're sitting there at the beach, and like nothing happened at all.
Yeah.
And then I turned to Harmony. I said, I'm not normally in this good of a mood. I'm actually in a good mood right now. I don't know what's going on. It's like, we microdosed. We forgot all about it.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, the microdosing is one thing. This other one, these are what they sometimes call heroic doses, or
wow,
like big doses.
My brother used to give those to me. Yeah, I know about those.
Well, this is, as you probably know, psilocybin is non-toxic and non-addictive, and so that's why we're starting there with the psilocybin, and specifically looking at the mystical aspects. The folks at Johns Hopkins and other folks doing the psilocybin and other kinds of psychedelic medicine research mostly just focus on, you have this issue, we give you this dose here
Mhm.
and measure it on the other side of the dose when you come out, and your anxiety is less, your addiction's less, your whatever. But they sort of skip what happens between here and here, which is
Yeah.
this mystical experience and changing a person's understanding of connection to life. And that's what we want to focus on, because we have that speciality, as you might say in Canada, uh,
Yes.
speciality in all things consciousness
Yeah.
and mystical aspects. So
Well,
Yeah, and
as I
that's I mean,
said
that is
at the
so
beginning of the
essential.
show, he is a weird one.
It's so
On the
great.
surface, he seems like a nice guy from Minnesota, but he's
that's
really done some funny stuff.
that's what I always tell people. I say I look like a banker on the outside, but I'm really a hippie on the inside.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so beautiful because it is. It's like when you have that opening, that heart opening, that consciousness opening, and you understand how everything is connected, you understand that everything is about love, you understand how you're just a piece of a greater whole.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you can surrender, you can trust, it's not all about
Yes.
you. Like so many
Well,
beautiful things fall out of those experiences.
it's so true. And if I may give one last little summary of Edgar Cayce's readings for your listeners
Yeah.
as Thanksgiving approaches, is that the universe is not happening to you,
Yeah.
it's happening for you,
Yeah.
Hmm.
right? Everything that comes your way is happening for your benefit. Even Uncle Bob.
Yeah.
There's a lesson. There's a lesson there that if you get out of the victimhood that we all tend to want to go toward, the pain aspects,
Mhm.
and if you can be open to what is coming my way, what's happening for me today, it's a whole different mindset.
Hmm. Well, someday I'll
Yeah.
see the Minneapolis Miracle in that light. That'll be nice.
It's all for your growth and your healing and your
I
spiritual
suppose I
evolution.
suppose it was. Well,
It was.
Mr. Belisle, this
As,
has been amazing. Thank you so much.
it's been
I
my pleasure. Thank you for having me, you guys. This is really fun.
Yeah, and people can look up we'll have the show notes for the Hoffman Institute and also maybe even the consciousness.
uvadops.org
Okay. We'll
and
put all those
and
links. And
edgarcasey.org.
Edgar
Great.
Cayce,
Yeah.
yeah, beautiful. All of the beautiful
uvadops.org. Yeah.
organizations that
The
you've been a part of
ARE.
and blessed our
Um,
collective awakening with.
We really
I
maybe
just,
next time we can have you come back and talk about hypnotherapy, which we missed. We
Oh,
glossed
yeah.
over that
I
one.
know, I said, "Maybe we'll get hypnotized."
well, little did you know you already have been. I'll bring you out of it now.
Thank you. Snap, snap, snap.
Exactly.
It was beautiful. Thank
All right,
you.
you guys, you bet.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Before we wrap up, I want to invite you to take the next step into transforming your business with the Spiritual Entrepreneur Archetype Quiz. This quiz isn't just about labeling yourself, it is a powerful tool to help you uncover your unique leadership superpower. By revealing your spiritual entrepreneur archetype, you'll gain insights that can reshape how you're approaching your business, help you attract your ideal clients, and align your energy more directly with goals that will help you feel nourished and satisfied when you reach them. This is so much more than just a simple quiz. I've put so much time and energy, blood, sweat, and tears into it, and it is the key to discovering your natural strengths and really optimizing your business or creating a business from the beginning that is aligned with your essence. You'll walk away with personalized strategy, not just to make your business more successful, but ways to stay energized as you work and make every aspect of your work an authentic representation of who you are in the world and who you are here to serve. So, if you're ready to unlock this blueprint to your unique leadership style and really create a soul centered business, head on over to my quiz now, the Spiritual Entrepreneur Archetype Quiz, and discover what your archetype is and what's waiting for you on this incredible journey of building a life and business you love. The link is in the bio. Drop me a message on Instagram. Tell me what type you are. I would love to continue to support you in this, and I would love to know what is your spiritual entrepreneur archetype. That's it. We've concluded another episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I just want to thank you so much for doing the work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a huge difference. Please make sure you have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much more magic I can't wait to share with you. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello at Finding Harmony Podcast. And you can also come say hello to me personally at Harmony Slater Official. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you in our next episode.